Statements are happening in a couple of hours in the trial of Derek Chauvin, the former Minneapolis police officer charged in the death of George Floyd.
Chauvin, who was seen kneeling on Floyd's neck for nearly 9 minutes, 8 minutes and 40 seconds last May, is charged with second-degree murder, third-degree murder, and manslaughter. 15 jurors were selected, but of course only 12 will hear the evidence along with 2 alternates. And the jurors chosen include 6 men and 9 women. 9 are white, 4 are black, and 2 are of mixed race. So we want to bring in Melissa Gomez, who's president of MMG Jury Consulting and the author of the book Jury Trials Outside In. So she joins us now. Good morning.
Good morning.
Well, we gave first the overview, Melissa, of the jurors, male, female, and their race. And we know that it was quite a task to try to select the jury for this, because so many people have seen the video and have been talking about this case. So what are your thoughts on who were selected?
Well, I mean, everyone has seen the video except for one person. And as I looked over the jurors, the thing that really struck me is the level of diversity. Now, Hennepin County is 72% white, yet the actual jury is actually a little more diverse than that, about 57% white with the white jurors that are selected. So, and that could actually get a little bit narrower because only 12 jurors will deliberate. So it depends on how the alternates are selected. So if we look at the order the jurors were chosen, the last 4 jurors are all white. So if they decide that the last 2 jurors are the ones that get cut off to be the alternates, you will have a 50-50 jurors, 50-50 panel, 50% white and 50% people of color, which represents great diversity. And we've seen in our research that more diversity on a panel creates richer discussions, deeper discussion of the evidence, and usually more thorough results.
I was talking about race. Let's talk about ages. Anything stand out for you on that regard?
Yeah, I mean, the diversity on this panel cuts across several different areas. Age is one. So when we were first looking, those first few days of jury selection, it was looking like we were having a really young panel, a lot of 20 and 30-year-olds. And then we had some older jurors come in later in their 40s, 50s, and 60s. But otherwise, we have representation of race, we have representation of ages. And another area of diversity is representation of the different kinds of occupations that people have.
Yeah.
We have some people, they have some are very logical, very technical. We have a chemist, an IT person, an insurance person. And on the other side, we have a social worker and someone who had studied child psychology. So you have both your technical and more of your caretaking feeling.
You mentioned the chemist. The chemist is the one who says he's never seen the video.
That's right. That's right.
How's that possible?
He probably just doesn't watch the news. Some people just get their news from different sources, and maybe he just looks at everything on text. But he'll see it soon enough.
And there were also some who said they only saw a couple seconds. They didn't see the full video as well.
Right. Some mentioned they had turned it off because they found it too disturbing. Yeah.
And they were also asked about the Black Lives Matter movement as well as the Blue Lives Matter movement.
Yes.
And
and there was, most of them were in support of Black Lives Matter. And, you know, it seems like you have some folks who are very willing and actually one who said kind of excited to hear the evidence in this case in order to make a decision because they know that the country is watching. Yeah.
So you said that it looks like 2 of them said that they have friends or relatives who are police officers.
That's correct.
Did you see anything on there that you got, I'm not sure that I would have picked that juror?
Not necessarily. So just having family member who's a police officer doesn't necessarily mean that that person will automatically be for or against Chauvin. There are 2 ways that people can look at that. They can look at it as, hey, I have a family member who's a police officer. I want to be protective of police overall. Or there may be folks who say, you know what, I have a family member who's a police officer and I understand that there are good officers and there are not so good officers. And while my person may be a good officer, maybe Derek Chauvin is an example of someone who shouldn't be on force. So that doesn't necessarily mean they're going to lean one way or the other. It's all of the other variables that we need to take into account.
Obviously, when this came out, the video, and over the summer, and there were protests around the country, really around the world. In your experience, when it comes to high-profile cases like these and ones that have resulted in protests in different areas, how does that affect a jury? Because I've seen some articles where they're saying sometimes the fear of or concern about what might happen based on a certain verdict, and that might affect a jury.
It could. It absolutely does. It affects in a couple of different ways. Number one, it can affect their response to even getting that jury summons. Are they nervous about showing up? Or there are some folks, and there was one juror who I believe even said she was very excited to have received that summons. People understand how important this case is. And so I think, in the same regard of that anxiety of the country is watching, and there's big pressure on me to make the right decision, there's also that excitement for folks who may want to make a statement or send a message to the country about some of these issues with police and people of color.
Need 1 second answer. Are they sequestered?
I don't know.
I
don't know.
I'm shocked that I don't think they are.
Because there were concerns when the news of the settlement came out with the city, so you would think something would happen.
And they know.
Yeah, they do know.
And not televised, right?
I don't believe so.
No. Okay. Hey, thanks a lot, Melissa. We'll probably have you back because this thing is going to go on for over a month, probably.
All right. I just miss being in the studio with you.
I know. Soon, let's hope.
Yes.
We'll be right back.